Hi there, it's Bill Doggett. I'm back for another round, and here we are in June during Black Music Month 2026, but also on the precipice of honoring and commemorating America 250. In my previous video, I did not properly acknowledge, so I will do it in this one. Yes, I'm honored to have quite the reputation as the country's leading African American composer, contemporary composer, marketing agent, basically a hybrid of a publicist and a marketing agent working between 2012 and 2023 for some very high profile leading African American composers, both directly and in association. Um, Worldwide, and also having been recognized by the Grammy Museum in June of 2022 for my Race and Performing Arts Archive with an establishment basic grant to establish a relationship with them. And finally, last but certainly not least, is my relationship during the pandemic between 2020 and 2021 as an artist scholar for the Manhattan School of Music in New York City. Yes, Manhattan School of Music and Juilliard are the leading schools of music on the East Coast, in my opinion, certainly in New York. And I'm honored to continue to teach remotely as I did then. So today I want to there's so much to talk about. This will be the first or a second in a series of several that I'll be doing between late June and going into early July to look at race and performing arts and to talk about the history of that and the intersectionality of music, culture, race, and performance. So we're going to go into share screen. These will be all be Zoom presentations. These will be hopefully no more than 20 minutes. So I don't want to get too preachy. I could. Certainly I can teach any of these subjects. Yeah, should there be an interest, please do let me know. So anyway, we're going to go into share screen right now and we'll go from there. So when we talk about African American performers and contributions to America 250, perhaps there is none greater than the lady from Philadelphia, Marian Anderson. Marian Anderson is probably one of the most signature singers in American history, certainly in the idea set, this ideation of America 250, as she represents so much, in particular, so much of the challenge and the opportunity of America. As a gifted, trained African American concert singer emerging in the mid 1920s and early 30s, she was met by what was called the color bar in performing arts and classical music in the United States, meaning that because of her race, she was limited in terms of her opportunity. And because of that, like many singers in her generation, went to Europe and was celebrated in Europe. But she coming back in the mid 30s, trying to establish more of a career for herself, ran into quite a bit of a notorious and controversial uh, challenge, in particular in Washington, D.C., when she attempted to be booked at the Daughters of the American Revolution Constitution Hall. And when they found out she was not Norwegian, as it would sound, or Scandinavian with the name of Marian Anderson, but actually a Negro, she was barred from singing there. And her friend, a social progressive, Eleanor Roosevelt, the wife of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, made arranged for a very special, very important, very historic, if you will. I will have to say, really one of the early civil rights movement events of the early mid-century, which was to arrange for Marian Anderson to sing at the Lincoln Memorial outside on Easter Sunday and have that broadcast to the nation and the world, where millions of people in attendance saw her and heard her. Let us listen to what Marian Anderson means to this idea of America 250.
Genius, genius draws no color line. And so it is fitting that Marian Anderson should raise her voice in tribute to the noble Lincoln whom mankind will ever honor. Miss Marian Anderson.
That is the famous one of several newsreels that was done at this event, this very important event, Easter Sunday, 1939, at the Lincoln Memorial broadcast internationally. And really, the signature early pre-1963, pre-March on Washington event of the Civil Rights Movement is this event. This film has been restored by UCLA Film and Television Archives. I happened to be at that event over a decade ago. And there's a family story here in particular as it relates to my mother, who a Philadelphia native from this early 20s and 30s, who was, as a teenager, Marian Anderson was her teenage matinee idol and inspiration, and so much more on that subject. But I want to talk about this, what I'm bringing forward. Brand new book, America, USA, How Race Shadows the Nation's Anniversaries, by Eddie S. Glaude, the well-known Princeton University professor who is seen in frequent and amazing, wonderful contributions on MS Now. He looks at, in his brand new book, looks at this idea of race and America. How do we see race? How do we see ourselves in America 250? Do we see how? And he brings up in particular this ideation, which I've spoken to in my Manhattan School of Music courses, or I would say my Zoom courses. This idea that is basically signatured in 1903 by the important Black intellectual leader W.E.B. Du Bois in his Souls of Black Folk. This idea of double consciousness, looking through the lens, how African Americans have had to, or Negroes have had to look through the lens, looking backward, looking inward, and this whole idea of double consciousness of oneself being a Negro, but yet being an American. Well, Eddie Glaude brings that up in great detail in recent interviews. He even talks about the duality of double consciousness, not just as it relates to African Americans, but to America. How does America see itself backwards and forwards? This idea of race and this imperfect union, how we have so much further to go. And in fact, I wrote about this in 2022 I was commissioned to write the program notes for the Public Quartet, a new age progressive string quartet based in New York City, for their new CD, a very fascinating concept CD called What is American? And I'm honored that their CD was nominated for a Grammy Award, and my writing for their CD was in voting rotation for a Grammy nomination for Best Album Notes. So, and I'll put in the link in the chat, the link to that particular separate I guess, the separate album notes that you can actually read digitally and look at digitally. So, but there's so much to say about this. And next, I really want to talk about or come back to, if you will, this idea of what is American and the African American contribution in music. Of course, The signature contribution that is historically been written about, of course, is the Negro Spiritual. The Negro Spiritual, originally called Slave Songs, published by abolitionists who did the research back in during the Civil War and before the Civil War. It was originally published in 1867 as Slave Songs of the United States, looks at the incredible contribution of of enslaved Africans, essentially, to the American cultural landscape and music. So we're going to, in our next slide, we're going to look at some of this and listen to a wonderful series of super rare radio archives, or I should say, actually 16-inch radio discs that were made during the WPA, during the Depression, the Works Progress Administration. I'm an archivist. If I had not shared that previously, these are in my collection. They are fantastic, and we will sample them today.
The Works Progress Administration presents a program by the Federal Music Project under the direction of Dr. Nikolai Sokoloff. Today we bring you the Los Angeles Negro Choir, directed by Carlisle Scott. This Negro choir of 50 voices featuring Irby Barnes will sing first a joyously happy spiritual, Every Time I Feel the Spirit. Every time I feel the spirit in my heart, I will pray. Mountain, my Lord spoke, out of his mouth came fire and smoke. All around me looked so shine, as the Lord is all of mine. Every time I feel the spirit in my heart, I will pray. Every time I feel the spirit in my heart, I will pray.
And we move now to the second one.
The Los Angeles Negro Choir with J.B. Jones sings a plaintive spiritual indicating just another of the many moods of the Negro, Wade in the Water.
Aren't these wonderful? I am so honored to have these as an archivist and having also for 10 years long association with the national organization called the Association for Recorded Sound Collections, where I have also presented at their conferences and on varying subjects relating from the issue of race and message during early recorded sound, at the dawn of early recorded sound, all the way through the Negro Spiritual, and importantly, in 2015, at the at their Pittsburgh conference for the Billy Strayhorn Centennial. There is a very interesting ad here that I want to play that I'm grateful that was able to have digitized. It's quite something. It's quite a time capsule to the WPA moment and to these radio archives. These were intended for a radio broadcast. Very few of them have survived and exist, except perhaps in the recorded sound collection of the Library of Congress.
More than 3 million men and women have left the relief rolls and now earn their living on WPA jobs. All of the work they are doing was proposed by officials of their own communities. It is true that women cannot earn their living digging ditches, but they can nurse the sick, clothe the needy, and teach both young and old. More than 400,000 women in the Works Progress Administration are creating better homes and rearing stronger children.
Isn't that interesting? It's dated, obviously, but it's an interesting tidbit looking at the times and revealing the mindset of that particular era. We're going to finish our talk today with this final edition, this final excerpt. I hope you've been enjoying this program. This is a short program. This is a whole hour, 2 hour. This is a whole college course I can give and will give at some point. Certainly I have through my work and association with the Manhattan School of Music and through the residencies I've given, in particular at UC Davis, University of California, Davis, the music department, and then through 3 different wonderful conferences at University of California, Irvine, the African American Art Song Alliance Conference. So some of those are on my YouTube channel, so you'll have to take a listen. Let's finish today with this final excerpt.
Progress Administration presents the Negro Melody Singers, directed by Miss Juanita Hall in a collection of Negro Spirituals. All choral arrangements sung by this group have been especially made by Miss Hall. First, we hear a song reminiscent of their emancipation from slavery. This has a twofold meaning, as it also refers to the emancipation of our souls from sin. Free at last. Free at last, free at last, thank God Almighty, I'm free at last, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last. Way down yonder in the graveyard wall. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last. Me, my God, gonna walk that talk. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last. You can talk about me just as much as you please. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last. I'm gonna talk about you when I get on my knees. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last.
And that ends this short tribute with these really rare 16-inch radio discs, the WPA Works Progress Administration documentation of the Los Angeles Negro Choir and Juanita Hall's Negro Melody Singers. Each of these discs have multiple tracks. I've only sampled one from each. So at some point in a future residency, I'll be happy to share more of those. I'm grateful to have these and to be able to share them. And on the note of the Negro Spiritual, I'm really honored to share that during the pandemic in 2021, I was, for Tuskegee University, their annual William Levi Dawson lecture presenter. Of course, William Levi Dawson is another and very signature arranger of the Negro Spiritual, as are many others. It's Tuskegee Institute singers, it's the Fifth Jubilee singers, it's my gosh, all of the other singers in particular. I'm thinking not just Juanita Hill, but of course, famously, and this is where I'm going, the Hall Johnson singers, the Hall Johnson Negro Choir, that all of their combined contributions to telling our story, African American story, through music and culture, and the enslaved African story through music and culture, really speak profoundly and importantly at this moment of America 250. So for today, we will end today and we will continue in the next round. Thanks for listening. See you next time.